It's absolutely beautiful here in Auckland today. I think it's about 15 degrees, but it feels a little bit warmer than it does in Sydney, even though maybe it was more just around, we weren't expecting it, that's for sure, coming here. So, nice walk around today, but we've got the Panthers losing to Eels, and it seems to happen fairly regularly for them. They're definitely the bogey team, apart from in the grand final, thankfully for the Panthers there. And it was pod captain time with Cleary about 80% in the top 1,000, pretty similar to that in the top 100 there. Plenty of people going for Joey Manu along with DCE, and then a few obviously with Nico Hines as well as sort of the four, which is pretty cool, just to change it up a little bit into these last couple of rounds. And the scores haven't updated yet, so I'll give you the bulk of them that are very relevant, that have changed there. And Cleary did end up all the way at an 83 there in this one. I took off 3 of his missed tackles in the end, which is very, very helpful, obviously, and ended up at 190 run meters. So still wasn't his best game. Obviously, they got beat pretty convincingly with still 3 errors to his name as well. So a big 83, much better than last week. And for us that captained him, like Cleary, if you've got him in your side, in my opinion, just captain him every week. And I actually think this score now gives a very high chance for him to actually play next week, because him personally, the last 3 or so weeks hasn't been in great form, in my opinion. And the Panthers have been pretty poor as well. So they've won a couple of their games, but they haven't looked great. So I think it'd be more beneficial for their squad to try and get all together next week and play a good game and get themselves ready for the finals. Because I actually think they're pretty vulnerable right now. You're coming up against a decent team in Storm, or if it's Warriors that come forth, I think they're a decent chance of losing. So be very interesting to see what they do with restings next week. But a good score for Cleary nonetheless. If you captained him, or even if you didn't, you'd expect that most of you guys, Manu's probably the main sort of worry that he could go like a 40, but they all should be about a 60 plus anyway, which will be fine. But Mike Acevo with a massive score, three tries very early, got the 4th in there as well for 89 points for him. Gutho playing on one knee. Last week it looked like he was struggling as well, and ended up in a pretty good position. Towards especially the first half there, getting right involved with a couple of tries, a try assist. Very impressive to do that on one leg, and he eventually succumbed. So for him being captain of this side, very important for him, it seems like, to be out there with them, even if they were not going to make the finals, and this was their final game of the season. So all the Eels guys are now done. We don't have to think about Hopgood anymore, unless you're looking to trade him out, or Penasini, Gutho and the like there. So I suppose it's be interesting to kind of review the Parramatta season fantasy wise, as well as them as a whole. But Gutho a good finish to his year. Apart from the injury, sounds like it's just be a bit of a clean out for him. He kind of came out and said, so he'll be fine for next season, which they're going to need him, that's for sure. Jenkins with a nice one at 61. Dylan Brown at 58. So very much getting involved in everything. But 7 missed tackles is very weird on his front, but plenty more kick meters than this week, and it was mainly just the missed tackles for him. That was the issue. Again, not sure on all of them, but I know my players and a few of the real relevant guys. So Hopgood was 57, Isaiah Yeo was the 51 there. In this one, I believe Madison stayed similar, 41, 42, 43 there in that one. So Hopgood ended up playing off the bench, but came on for Greg at the 18th minute there, and played the rest of the game. So good news on that front. And he was fairly low coming into the last 15 minutes, and ended up with an offload or 2 and a couple of tackle breaks to sort of round out the game. 4 missed tackles kind of hurt him a little bit, but overall a 57 in this one we're very happy with as owners for his last game. At his price point is pretty well right on the money there. Crichton was a good one as well, along with Martin, for those that own them. And Isaiah Yeo, 51 for him. Got the 65 minutes in this one, so they decided that with the game done, they finally gave him a rest. And might give him a little bit more of a chance of playing next week for those that do own him. So, I kind of hope, having about to have 0 trades after this week, that a majority of these guys actually play next week, even if that does mean Isaiah Yeo does. But for those who have Cleary and Isaiah, it could be a little bit tough as well if that does happen that way, that they are rested. Lussick, the 48, I just wish this was Brendan Hands like it was earlier in about a month ago. Madison, a very upsetting game for him. He started okay, he had the disallowed try, unfortunately, they end up being a knock-on, and he had 4 missed tackles on his front. So no tackle breaks, just the one offload. Not good enough, unfortunately, for Maddo in this one, and he's had a very disappointing season. It all kicked off with that, Tim not taking the fine, and missing those first few games, and it's just all gone backwards from there. So a 51 average from him. Be very interesting to see how things play out with their buys and what position he's going to be playing next year, because if we can get Maddo on an edge next year, longer term, then him at this price point of 51 is going to be very, very good. So that's that there. Penasini ended up going down 1 to 35, and we'll take that as an owner of him. That 35 in the centres there with him missing a few tackles there and having an error in a game, unfortunately, that went really, really left for the Eels and didn't go right to Penasini in this one. We'll take the 35 at that. Assey with 36 as well. Same with McLean. Good first game for him. Solid overall. Obviously, didn't get to experience a win in his first one, but for a team to lose, he ended up in a good position there. The big news here is Jerome Luai going down with his dislocated shoulder, and at a minimum, it looks like he might return in sort of 3 weeks if they decide to not do any surgery, depending how bad it is, but didn't look very good at all. So 3 to 6 is the weeks there for that. And Cogger will come in and play 6. And it's obviously not the end of the world for him, but he is a very important player. So how that's going to look with Cogger at 6 in finals time, as I said, I think they all need to play next week so that Cleary can practice playing with Cogger side by side there, and they can get the reps in a game before finals time. To'o, obviously a low one as well for anyone who grabbed him just for this game. Very, very frustrating at that. Hosking for any owners of him, 51 minutes for 29, wasn't great. And then Shawnee Lane, 15 minutes there for 11. So he's going to be an interesting guy for next year with an average of 35.7. Very, very low. So hopefully he has a lovely off-season, because this year's been an absolute shocker for him, unfortunately. And Brennan Hands was 18th along with Salmon and didn't get on the park. So that's that first game, guys. As I said, I'll be going to the Wars game tonight against Dragons, which will be fun. And then the Cowboys play straight after. I can't believe, you guys do it so well, you Kiwis. To have all these games. Like last night's game starts at basically 10 o'clock. And then, tonight's Cowboys game is 10 o'clock as well. So you do it well if you guys are actually watching all the games and have to get up for work and the like. So that's that, guys. We'll leave it there. And hope you guys enjoy the game tonight. Let's try and spot us in the crowd.